What's going on, guys? Welcome to 20 Percenters, where we focus on what matters: health, wealth, relationships, and time. And today I'm here with the new tough leader, Ken Kilday, my coach. And what we are sitting at the precipice of the 20 Percenters, the evolution of this organization over the last 2.5 years. You've been a part of it from the inside out. I know that it's bared some fruit for you, and you've made a ton of progress in the last year. But so much of what I do in here, facilitating this mission, is a result of the coaching that I worked through with you. And I'm super proud to not only call you my coach, but also a colleague. And like these journals that you're sitting here, I remember texting you and ever so proudly and saying, "Hey man, I stole something from you, but I think you're going to like it." And your response was, "Like, I've not stolen anything from you." Like
Exactly.
So for where New Tough Leader is now, are you on track, ahead of schedule? Are you, where are you at on the timeline?
Yeah, I'm on the timeline. Roger James Hamilton, who is the father of wealth and talent dynamics, he describes it in stages, and he doesn't attach timelines to it per se.
Sure.
It can be a little bit different. When most of us launch a business, we start with the people we know and that know us. In other words, our network, and then referrals from our network. That's stage 0 is launch day, then 1, 2 is bringing on that first group of clients, and then building beyond that. So now that I have my feet on the ground with my own network, who I continuously work with and through, et cetera, it's now I hired a media company to help me with the how do I get out beyond my own circle, because it's not a natural talent for me. It's never been my background. Media and marketing has never been my background. So that is progressing well and is starting to bear fruit for people that didn't know me until I marketed them and we started conversations.
Right.
So that's what we're at right now. In terms of am I ahead, am I behind, that sort of thing. This was my husband's advice to me was, it's never going to go as fast as I want it to go, because that's just how it is. You know, I wanted to be at triple the number of clients at this point 6 months in, and that's just not how life works.
Sure.
But that's okay, because it, like all things, it allows us to get better and better. I was actually talking to the lady that helped me come up with the branding of New Tough. She said, you don't want to get swarmed by people. You can't deliver an amazing experience when you're brand new.
Right.
She said, you're not brand new, but you get what I'm saying, is when you've launched, if you had launched PHX and every single class had been 1.5 times capacity,
right,
how would you have created the family you created?
Exactly.
So it's okay. It's fine.
Yeah.
We have time.
Well, that we were just talking about that offline, the timeline of business, right? You are where you are because you're supposed to be there right now.
Right.
I wholeheartedly believe that, whether you subscribe to the universe or your acumen for business is such that it's only taking you this far, whatever you want to blame it on, right? It is what it is, right? And I was having a conversation with one of my mentees today, and she's just extremely dissatisfied with where she's at, and I was like, let me explain to you all the things I've done up to this point that didn't make money, so you understand that timeline, right? PHX didn't make any money for the first 3 years, right? And we didn't make a shit ton more money when we were proclaimed by Men's Journal to be the #1 CrossFit box in America, right? It was it was all the little things that created that exponential growth. In 3 years of podcasting, we've made literally pennies per episode up to this point. And here we are now.
Right.
Right. Sponsors are coming in, right? the production of the show is paying for itself, right? The launch of the book, we'll see.
Sure.
Remains to be seen.
Yeah.
Right. But I know how much it took to get it out there. And then 20 Percenters has been around for 2.5 years. And now we're making money. Right? The timeline of business, yes, we're in control, but only to a certain extent.
Right. It has a real life cycle to it. And I think the lesson, what I hope I give back, is what I was always given, which is helping people understand. Everybody says this, the overnight success, 10 years in the making. It takes a lot of time, energy, effort, not failures, learning. It's a constant learning. And sometimes the things we're doing, it's not that they're not working. We don't, they take a certain amount of time. I could be a real impatient little kid, and my mother used to tell me, she said, you're worrying about this, and it's the baby problem, my son. I'm like, what? My mother has 1,000 of these, by the way. She said, look, it takes 9 months to make a baby. Assign 9 women, you do not get it in a month. Just the way it works. So she would have us take a look at things. Are we expecting something that is completely unreasonable?
Sure.
You see that in business a lot of, I would have expected third quarter earnings to be much stronger by now. Why?
Yeah.
Based on what? So helping others who want to form their own businesses understand that what they're experiencing is so perfectly natural and normal.
And a caveat to that is the comparison game, right?
Oh,
you look at, let's just take podcasting, for example. The guy like Joe Rogan, right? Launches a 3 to 4 hour episode every single day, right? And monetarily, he is killing it, right? But he's also on episode 2,000 and something, right? That's quite the catalog of episodes that have gotten to that point.
That's a lot of practice. And Tony Robbins used to make that point, or makes that point rather, that part of what put him ahead of a lot of other people was doing it. People love to use Tony as, because he's so well known, they use him as a great example. And he's a phenomenal example of, he used to take every speaking gig there was. He didn't care if there was one person in the room. And as he tells the story, there were some hotels he arrived at, he had one person in the room. And he gave it his all. Right. Because the next time he would be that much better. Right. And so now all of us are familiar with his work and have heard books or heard Audible books and read books and maybe seen him. And we get the end product. And then we like to, so easy for Tony. Look what he gets to charge. Sure. 40 years in or 30 years in, whatever it is. Right. It's quite a long time.
And that you're when you're looking at time, when you're looking at right now, present, you're comparing apples and oranges. When the real comparison lies, if you're in year 3 of your business, you need to look at the industry comparison that you aspire to be like and ask yourself, where were they at year 3? Because there's a reason that you aspire to be like them, and it's not because you started at the same time. Right. And that's a really tough pill to swallow when you're in startup / survival mode, trying to maintain that base of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Sure. And you have to be able to make the mission bigger than the right now to justify that next step. And that's what something I keep bumping into as of late with the clients I'm taking on in this new consulting role is they expect to be someplace that they're not prepared to be at. You know, whether it's they don't have the tools, the experience, the education. There's something lacking that is the reason why they're not there yet. And for a lot of them, it's just time.
It's just time. And it's so analogous to wellness. I always use CrossFit examples because that's what I'm familiar with. And how many people they see a coach, and normally coaches are in great shape by virtue of they practice what they preach. And people say, oh, I want to be like that. Okay. Do you show up 5-6 days a week? Do you do you have a macro strategy for what supports your goals? It's building. You didn't see them, 10 years ago when they started. You're seeing them 10 years into their personal progress.
Right.
And it's building up and building up and building up. I'm not going to deadlift 300 pounds before I've deadlift 250, 260, 270 and put that up.
Right.
Life is always like that. And it seems like in business we start to forget some of that minimum effective dose. We forget those rules. We don't go to school for a year and have it all. We don't take, even in whatever our degree is in, I didn't take one accounting class. I took several every semester for years to get the degree.
Right.
Everything is like that. The doctor doesn't give you one large 10,000 milligram dose. It's a series.
Right.
All things are like that, and it's so easy to be impatient with ourselves in business. We should on ourselves. I should have done this a year ago. I should have done this 6 months ago. I should have.
Yeah.
My marketing guy is phenomenal, and he's my third.
Yeah.
Because the others weren't right for me. It's not what I needed.
Right.
I needed to learn some more things, and I found somebody that could teach me and bring me along while we were moving the marketing forward. That sort of thing.
Yeah. I've experienced it. That was an evolution that I had to eclipse probably 3.5 years in. I was looking at, what NorCal CrossFit was doing before they became NorCal Fit. I was looking at what Invictus was doing out in San Diego. I was looking at what CrossFit New England had become with Ben Bergeron. And I'm like, man, why are we not there yet? And it took some strategic coaching to get my head out of my ass and realize that they're at the least 5 years ahead of you. Relax, and ask yourself the real question. Where were they? Where you're at. Right. And in asking that question, I found that in a lot of cases, whether it's podcasting, the gym, whatever, I'm either right on par or ahead of schedule by comparison.
Right.
So, if without having that that awareness of where I was at, where I'm at with, respect to the field, if you will,
sure,
at this stage in the game, it really serves as a primary motivator to keep pushing in that direction, and at the same time, if I was behind schedule, it's like, that's also a motivator. It's like, well, okay, now I can justify doing more.
I think that's that's also things like coming to a 20%ers mastermind. That's the collective accountability of where am I right on schedule, and where did I not do what I said I was going to do, or where did I not raise my hand for help, or where did I see something going on and not offer help.
Right.
That's collective accountability of, we're not looking for somebody to stand up and say, I'm stuck. And they say, oh, well, that's too bad. What didn't you do? It's, okay, well, did somebody else know they were stuck and didn't help them? Because that's just as bad.
Right.
I referred to one of the leaders I used to work with who, was picky about his words. He didn't he didn't say somebody's accountable. He'd say somebody's on point.
Right.
We're all accountable,
Mm-hmm.
but somebody's on point so they can keep us organized.
Sure.
But he also used to say, there's something desperately wrong when you have two people that are in offices next to each other or cubes next to each other. Those two people are going to know when the other one's struggling.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not up to the leader, just the leader, to figure it out, because they're going to hear it first and they better jump in to help.
Right.
Now, once they've done that, then it's on the other person to rise to the occasion.
Sure. And that's the, I'm more impressed than anything else with how 20 percenters has evolved, because it's been so organic up to this point.
Mm-hmm.
From, it was, you all just need to know each other.
Right.
For a million reasons. And I think it'll be really good. And the growth that has come of that collective accountability has been absolutely amazing. New tough leader, right? And there's just something to be said about being stuck, having a collective sounding board, and that ever so subtle kick in the ass to move you in the right direction.
Right.
I want to jokingly coin the phrase, come to 20 percenters and quit your job. Because a couple of meetings ago, that was like the thing, I started coming to 20 percenters and I quit my job and now I'm off to my thing, and they're running with it. Oh, I came to 20 percenters and I quit my job and I'm running with my new thing. And it's now a running joke in the organization that I find just absolutely hilarious. But that's what these kinds of things facilitate, is what are your deepest wants? What are your deepest fears? What's holding you back? And we can sit down and we can troubleshoot all of it.
Yep.
Is that fear, founded in reality, or is that something? Are you future casting something that doesn't even exist?
Right.
Let's acknowledge that.
It's funny. When I was in financial services, we used a particular financial planning tool, and it was probably one of the most people-oriented tools I've ever seen. It did its best to negate jargon, which nobody likes, unless you're in the industry.
Right.
So when we put goals in, it was called needs, wants, and wishes, because that's how people think.
Sure.
What do I have to live? What would be really awesome? And what do I wish I could do? Which is exactly what you just said. And then there was a whole section called "What are you afraid of?" It was planning in different context, but it could still apply to everything that we're doing in 20 percenters, everything that I do as a career. Of what are you afraid of? What's the worst thing? Because we can mitigate that. Whatever it is, we can mitigate it.
Sure. The one of the most powerful tools that you and I worked with, and I've seen you impart with other clients, is the worst case scenario, and just acknowledging that elephant in the room. Right? What is the absolute worst that could happen? Would you be able to weather that storm? And 9 times out of 10, the worst case scenario isn't as bad as you thought it was, or the worst case scenario isn't grounds to not pursue the big thing.
Right. Well, and there's something tied in there for anyone that spent any time listening to Brené Brown. It's the what story are you telling yourself?
Sure.
Because for a lot of people that want to start something, the story is, well, I make really good money. Okay. And, I don't know if, it would be up to my spouse. Okay. What does your spouse say? Well, I don't want to talk to him or her.
Yeah.
And you and I have talked about this a lot. I don't think they're afraid their spouse will say no. I think they're afraid their spouse will say yes, and in most cases they do. Because then the spouse, because I know I've got one that did it, is, okay, then what's the plan?
Right.
Let's come up with a plan. Let's do
Sure.
it. Let's do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, the exact same thing happened with me and Nicole. It was like I was caught in that negative feedback loop where I was competing the business with my family. And it was killing me on the inside slowly. You know, the gym wasn't growing because I felt like I should have been at home. I wasn't happy at home because I felt like I should have been at the gym, right? And then one day it all came to a head, and Nicole called me out. She was like, "What's wrong with you?" And I, got real short with her. I was like, "Nothing." She's like, "We're not leaving this room until you tell me what the fuck is going on." And, I just erupted. "I'm not happy. This isn't working." And da 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 da. She's like, "Okay. I got this.
Yeah.
Go do the thing." And I got to tell you, man, it was one of the biggest slaps in the face ever. It's like, oh, that's not what I wanted. It's really funny because to your point, for a very, very split second, I was like, that's not what I wanted to hear.
Right.
Like, now my guard's up. I want to duke this out. You're not supposed to be on board. You're supposed to say, "You know what? You're right. You're not home enough. What's going on?" You know what I mean? You're supposed to join me in my misery.
Join me in my self-imposed misery, please.
No, we're not playing that game. I told you I support you. I meant it. Here's me telling you again, I'm on board 100%.
Yep.
And you are 100% correct. It's like, oh, you mean now I have to really make some decisions?
Yeah.
Okay. And, we were off to the races ever since. But, that is kind of terrifying.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. It's like, it's not about, because if they're not on board, that's the worst case scenario. Like
Right.
you've already prepared yourself for that, right? It's the other what if, that is going to it will catch you off guard because you've already got the barriers up.
Right.
You've already walked through every single negative scenario that could come of that conversation. Right. What you haven't prepared yourself for is fly. Spread your wings. Go.
Yeah, go.
And for a lot of people, that makes them want to shit their pants.
Yeah, I mean, Mark told me I don't even know if I was launched yet, when he said, and we're on opposite sides of talent dynamics.
Yeah.
As most couples are. He said the one thing you have to get through your head is if it's not exactly where you think it's going to be in a year, is that going to bother you? And I was filling the other sentence of, you're going to have to go be a barista. You're going to have to, whatever other job I don't want. But no, it was, you're going to have to, in classic directness, you have to get over that. In other words, keep at it.
Right.
You don't stop in a year. Lots of businesses fail in a year because people just give up.
Sure.
They don't stick with it. And I don't have any stats, so I don't know if that's a function of how they spent money or that sort of thing. But I think a lot of that is they don't give themselves a chance to succeed because they don't have a Nicole or a Mark at home to keep them from doing things like that.
Sure. Or they haven't had the discussion, right?
Or they haven't had the discussion.
Because there's, for better or for worse, there's power in permission, right? And as we've seen through 20%ers, we will do more for ourselves as a result of the expectation of others than we will through our own expectations, right? That's what makes this kind of thing, this mastermind organization, so powerful, right? You are accountable to everybody sitting in this room as opposed to, buying your own excuses.
Right.
You have to show up next month having accomplished something.
Sure.
Having had moved the needle, right? You can wake up every day, look yourself in the mirror, and justify your circumstance.
Yep.
nobody in this room is buying that shit,
Mm-mm.
you know? And for, you know, do we need permission to be our best selves and seek fulfillment and be the greatest version of who we are? Absolutely not. But it's part of the human psyche,
That's right.
especially with regards to your significant other.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we've talked a handful of people off that ledge, you know, with regards to why they're not doing something. It's not necessarily blame, but it's like, oh, I don't know that my husband or my wife is on board. Have you had the conversation? And 90% of the time, no. I was like, that's a huge assumption.
Yeah.
And I obviously, in you as well, say that in hindsight, but you got to have the talk.
Got to. And I understand their hesitance. It's the most cherished relationship.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big fear of my most cherished relationship. They think they're protecting it by not talking. And it's in the talking that you enrich it, right?
Right.
It's sort of like when people think somebody else has the fairy tale marriage, and that doesn't exist.
No.
Like, of course, and if you've been together any amount of time, especially if you have kids in the mix, of course you fight about stupid stuff. My sister keeps asking me, and I still haven't told her, because I always have to go. She's like, what does this sound like when you and Mark fight? Oh, you know what? I got to, is he right there? Yeah, whether it is or not. Because she knows two of my sisters have been married 25 and 30 years-ish, just ahead of me. So they know. When you make things last, there's good times and bad. It's that same sense of, oh my gosh, he has it so easy, or she has it so easy. Nobody has it easy. We don't know what they're going through.
Right.
We don't know the battle they're fighting.
Sure.
But in here, that's that. That's where New Tough came from, is caring about people so deeply that I have the permission to kick them in the ass as needed. And I don't do it in a, you better get this, nothing like that. It's,
right.
No, you can do it. One of lady I used to work with, Rachel, said when she's bringing a new employee on board, she says, I'm very, very careful about how I hire. That's why you went through the process you went through. And I rate everybody on a scale of 1 to 10 when I bring them in. And I only hire 10s. She said, you're going to have to talk me down off that. Which is, it's not, you better be up here. That's what you're capable of.
Right.
And now we can work together to find it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting when you get in a setting like this and you realize how you see it on the faces of people that are new to the group or new to the concept of collective accountability, in that there's this aha moment every once in a while where they realize how low they've set the bar for themselves with respect to A, what they want, and B, what they're actually capable of. And I just, it's really funny when you watch it happen in the moment.
Sure.
Like, oh,
sure.
Not the I should dialogue, but it's
no.
like, I can.
Yeah,
like,
right. And I think CrossFit's another great analogy for that of, you walk in and there's a prescribed weight. Like, I'm going to scale today. Why? Why are you doing that? Well, I don't want to be last. Okay. Do you have an injury of some sort?
Right.
Go through all the questions. Didn't sleep good, had a fight, injury. No, it's, I want to make, I've set the bar so low, quite literally, that I know I can pick it up 1,000,000 times.
Sure.
It's like, go up to the prescribed, and now we can measure.
Right.
And, in terms of how I coach, I use CrossFit analogies a lot, whether or not people CrossFit, because people create some pretty bad habits for themselves, one of which is, oh, I'll just work some more hours, because that's always better, right? That's always the answer. Except they're usually exhausted and their focus is off and they're not showing up, or they're missing important cues, or so on. But, the analogy is the reason we have timed workouts is so that we have some standards in there, so that we can truly compare. Right? Because the sins of mediocrity can be hidden in some high activity. Oh, look at Bob there. He's here before everybody and stays after. It takes him that long to do the job. My goodness.
Sure. Yeah.
So it gives us some standards. When you start to bookend, say, no, actually, you're not allowed in the office until 8, and you need to be out of here by 5.
Yeah.
And it needs to be done. No, you're not taking the laptop home. It needs to stay.
Yeah.
Because then that starts to create better decision making. Just like if I'm setting up to do Fran and I want to beat my last time, and actually it wasn't until I got to PHX where this started to click for me of it wasn't just go as hard as I could. That's not what it's about. It's organizing the workout beforehand. So where are my transitions? Where will I take my breaths? Am I going to start out super hot? How am I going to pace it? It's a whole lot of planning, and it's analogous to all things business as well.
Sure.
If my business leaders are coming in knowing that they need to look up, that's more effective than 20 hours looking down, then suddenly they start to see what's going on and see what's important. And it also helps build, whether they've been in business 20 years or 20 days, it starts to build some really positive habits about saying no to things. Like everything that's urgent is not important, Covey. Right? All of those old lessons are still present. And in fact, this is a room where we can do that, where we can remind somebody that maybe gets that right 90% of the time, but they're trying to raise it up one more notch, right? They've built, they've plateaued, they're getting ready for the next notch. And that's where some of that insight, that coaching from the room starts to come in.
Sure.
Coaching's all about having a different perspective. Swing coaches are a really good analogy for that. If a swing coach is watching and they tell the pro, move your elbow 1 inch, that's enough, now do it, and boom. And that's a multi-million-dollar difference for that profession.
Right.
Right? So it's amazing how people in this room are looking for insights. A lot of people say, why would I need a coach? And it doesn't matter what the thing is, whether it's in fitness or business or what have you. Why do I need a coach? All right, you're not ready.
Right.
You're not my client for sure.
Sure. I mean, yeah, in this day and age where, information is at your fingertips, and, I mean, shit, you need only swipe once on your social media and you'll see somebody either professing to be a coach or singing the praises of their coach, and it's acknowledged the importance of that, at the very least, a sounding board mentor to get, to help you move the needle. And the people that are in this room, for whatever reason, are ready to be found wrong, right? They are accepting of the fact, of the notion that what got them this far has only got them this far. And maybe, just maybe, and more than likely, the answer to that next level is in this room. Mike Bledsoe, when we had him on the podcast, gave me told a really amazing story about the progression of Faction Strength and Conditioning and CrossFit Memphis, and building the Barbell Shrug podcast, and a lot of the instruments, tools, systems, people that they've brought in to facilitate all of that growth. He learned from outside the fitness industry. And this is not a group that is profession exclusive, where I'll limit it to only one finance professional or one videographer. That's not the point, right? The purpose is that abundance mindset and the possibility that the finance guy might have some genuine insight to elevate the fitness guy.
Sure. Yeah. I feel the same way in that, if when I go to a networking group, if I run into another coach, I'm happy to meet them because not everyone will click with me.
Sure.
Like any type of coach, not everyone is going to be a fit with me. But if I can introduce them to somebody that's a fit, that gets them where they need to be.
Oh, yeah. I can't tell you how many people have come through the doors at CrossFit PHX and not been a fit for PHX. And I've happily sent them elsewhere as opposed to sitting on my pedestal, having been proclaimed the #1 CrossFit gym in America. This is the place for everybody. No, what makes it special is that it's not for everybody. This group is not for everybody. That's what makes it special. And that for people that aren't ready, that notion will rub them the wrong way.
Right. Well, and I was talking to Darwin about this. I hope I remember the number accurately. Gallup says that 34% of people are engaged at work. 34% of people are fully engaged at work. And that means, so a third are, 2/3 aren't by definition. And that's why the coaching that I'm doing is focusing on the people, because there's a lot to unlock. You don't need more of them, right? You don't need more. You need more from each one, and that's the puzzle.
Right.
And telling them when you want it and what time and how many is not the answer either. It's not working.
Well, we just interviewed James Stratman, who owns Peak Nutrition, a couple of weeks ago, and he mentioned the bus analogy, which I know that you're a huge fan of, especially when you did the 360 review of CrossFit PHS when we started working together initially. And the answer organizationally is making sure that you're on the right bus, headed in the right direction with the right people, sitting in the right seats. So there's 4 layers to that.
Right.
And for people that aren't where they want to be just yet, you haven't fixed all 4 layers. Or maybe there's that one that you don't want to acknowledge. You've got that person, and we've talked about this, you've got that person that's been with you from the beginning.
Sure.
Right? But in order for you to evolve, that requires them being gone. Right? You have to then, having that awareness, fix that within yourself. You have to come to terms with that conversation.
Right.
And now you know that you won't be able to evolve. You can't just add another person to the mix.
Right.
Like, you have to, remove that person from the equation. But you justify keeping them because of everything they've done up to this point.
Sure.
But, going back to what we said earlier, what's gotten you this far has only gotten you this far.
Right.
And maybe the construct of your organization will not facilitate further progress.
Right.
And, things have to change.
Yeah. Well, and it starts with the leader. When I do the one-to-one work, even without working with a team, it's how are you interacting with everybody?
Sure.
How well do you know them? Oh, I know them really well. Great. Let's start talking about that. And I don't ask because they're already they know the spouse's names and that sort of thing. That's not knowing somebody.
Right.
Maybe they have a picture and you remember names really well. That's not the most important thing. It's what makes them tick and what ticks them off.
Yeah.
And the reason that I start with talent dynamics, whether or not I have a client that's done DISC or Myers-Briggs or Gallup StrengthsFinder, it doesn't matter what they've done. We start with talent dynamics so that we have common language. And then I can usually build a bridge to how they're using whatever their company uses.
Right.
Because their company, in every instance this has happened so far, they have more resources than they're using to understand their people better. They just don't know how to use those tools yet.
Right. Right. Yeah. The talent dynamics thing is, I mean, I feel like that's an episode all by itself, just because of all that is packed into that, and you present it so well. We'll host some of that presentation on the 20 Percenters channel. It's really interesting once you become aware of how you show up and immediately couple that with how you show up to others.
Yeah.
Because it always starts, the pursuit of coaching is me, very inward focused. And then you realize that there's more to it than that. And that is the people that you interact with.
Yep.
And once you get up to speed with, that ability to develop rapport, communicate effectively, the joke in the gym is left side, right side. Illy, who is, killing it on the administrative side because she's so organized, dialed in, and personable. I've the scale of the gym as a result of putting her in that seat has been incredible, right? But when we have our biweekly meeting, it's like, look, I need, for the sake of this point, I need you to come over to the right side for a second.
Yep.
And I will humor you by attempting to come over to the left.
Right. Well, and there's so many, like you say, there's so many layers to it. It is left, right, top, bottom.
Yep.
So it's not a matter of speaking different languages. It's a matter of understanding the dialects.
Yep.
And just those small turns of, why is somebody on the left? They're demonstrating how much they care by paying so much attention to the detail on your behalf. And you and I joke because you and I are the same profile. And the mistake that we have both lovingly made in our past was we think we're empowering people who need a lot of detail by saying, whatever you think you need to do, you just go do it, I trust you, which to them is an absolute nightmare.
Sure. Yeah.
It's, what time do you want it? How fast do you want it? How many pages should that be? What is my budget? Where do I get my budget? Who do I talk to about that?
Yeah.
They have 25 more questions for it, and we're thinking we're helping them. So
Yeah.
we're both coming to it from a point of you and I show people respect by, no, I completely trust you.
Sure.
That's how we care. They care with detail.
Sure.
And precision and those sorts of things. Right?
Yeah.
I always say that the people on the left side, the lower left, not the upper left, the lower left, they turn information into intelligence for us. All we see are spreadsheets. They see trouble on the horizon. They see a tipping point upwards on the horizon. They see a lot of things that the people on the right were so busy chatting that we're never going to get that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is pretty fascinating, and that could be an episode all by itself.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's super good. The one thing that I want to acknowledge before we end the show is how far New Tough Leader has come, and the expertise with which you provide counsel. It's equipped me with the action steps to get away from habitually doing what needs to be done, so that I can now focus on my flow and doing what I want to do.
That's great.
And the growth, I mean, we're sitting in it right now,
Right.
has a lot to do with our working together.
Fantastic.
So I want to acknowledge that for
Thank you.
the audience.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah. So I
Very good.
appreciate everything that you bring to the table, brother.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It's been a blast. It will continue to be a blast.
Yeah. And, we're on a new channel. So for the 20%ers out there, where can they find Ken Kilday, a New Tough Leader?
NewToughLeader.com or KenKilday.com. Either one of those gets you to New Tough Leader Business Coaching.
Cool.
Right?
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Support everything that Ken is driving. He is purpose-filled and making things happen and can help facilitate that action for you as well. I know he's done a lot for me. He's done a lot for the 20%ers in this room. And, those are services and assistance and guidance that he can provide for you as well. So you now have a resource for those of you that are looking to achieve whatever that next step is. You have a resource in Ken. And until next time, guys, make sure you focus on the things that matter: health, wealth, relationships, and time. See you next week.